It's Desert Island Discs, and my guest today, Robert Kyagulanyi, Bobi Wine. He said his title that he most prefers is Bro. You requested for a song. Your choice was Fide Bongolotaya.
Yeah.
You never got to meet him.
I did. Fide was our neighbor in the village. He used, back in the day before I was born, to sing in the choir, in the church choir, with my mother before he got so professional. But for many of us boys that come from Gomba, we looked at Fide Lutaya as the ultimate. I only saw him once when he came back in 1989. He died that year. So he came and visited even our home. You know, when he returned, the last time he came to Gomba, I visited all the elders, and my father was among the elders. He came to our home. And for me, the greatest thing was to see him and to touch him. Although even after touching him, and he left, our mother washed our hands with jik.
Because back in the day, they believed even just contact of skin.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
And interesting, I'll tell you this crazy story, that when Fide came there and served him soda with a cake, you know, such great visitors don't eat completely. So there were small crumbs
and
that
they
he
leave
left
it
there. We fought for those, but our mother almost killed us. Anyway, Fide was a great guy. We continue to miss him, but he's such a great inspiration.
Yeah, but that's also a very honest conversation about how people used to view HIV and AIDS back in the day. That even being in the same room, people would feel like they've contracted HIV and AIDS.
People that had HIV/AIDS were so stigmatized that even the hands could not be shaken.
Yeah, that's sad. So we've come to the story. We were talking about a particular story there, and then it entered into the police conversation, and you said, no, what you see today, police versus Bobi Wine, wasn't always the case.
No, it wasn't.
Because you've been, and maybe you still are, the voice of the ghetto for a long time. You may not be actively going down to the roots, but over the years when your music became, what it became, and you had your own career carved out, you mentioned much, much earlier that I was alone and I was figuring things out until I met Bobi. Which then tells me that Bobi has been part of your growth for a long time. She's not someone who just showed up at the end, Goldie Star. When you mentioned that, when you said that I think it was a moral compass. When you said when mom died, you lost your moral compass. And then later on you were able to find it when you met her. Why did she become that for you? Because you were both young.
Yeah, we were young. When I first met Bobi, I didn't even know I wanted her to be my girlfriend.
Okay.
No, I had a crazy life, that I didn't care so much, to the extent that I didn't even care whether I lived or died. I was an ordinary young ghetto man.
Right.
Not so many of my friends had formal marriages or formal lives.
It wasn't something you were aspiring to.
Yeah, it wasn't something that I was aspiring to. So I was living my life the way it comes. Of course, when I met Bobi, we first became friends, and over time we shared stories. We became closer friends, and then much closer friends. And when I realized that I was in love with her, I started getting more reason to change,
to organize yourself.
To be a decent, to fit. Her standards were too high.
She might hear this.
Uncomfortably high, but I started looking at myself.
When you look at them now, were they high, or the Bobi Wine at that point looked at them as high?
No, they were high. They are still high, Flavia.
They are incredibly high.
I am still struggling to
fit the standards.
Yeah,
that's a good woman.
Yeah. But she had a mother. She had a
father,
She had siblings.
Yeah.
She had somebody to account to.
Right.
And being her boyfriend meant I can no longer smoke weed publicly, because that image would be seen maybe by her uncle or her auntie.
But she knew you were smoking. You just couldn't do it publicly.
She didn't know.
Okay.
She didn't know. I started putting up an image. When I fell in love with her, or when I realized I was in love with her, I started trying to adjust
You
myself.
brought another Bobi Wine to her.
In fact, I started trying to reduce the Bobi Wine and bring out the Kyagulanyi, the Robert in me. Because even me, I had grown up with my mother. These are the same things that my mother had.
That Kyagulanyi already existed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I had flashed them out because
life.
life had happened, and there was nobody to do that for. My mother, she was not there anymore. But here was a girl that I wanted to impress, to be a decent young man that can be taken to have friends. And then she started introducing me to have friends, and it became even more uncomfortable, you know, and slowly by slowly, I started enjoying the new person that I had become.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't even about her. Now it was for you.
Yeah. Even before I told her I loved her, you know, I started distancing myself from those girls. Man, life...
Well done, well done.
You know, life changed, and slowly by slowly, you know, I became a better person.
Right.
And when I eventually met her people, her brothers, sisters, and parents, then I became more grounded. I started doing things not to impress her, because I'd already impressed her, but to impress her people. I am still stuck in
the
that
standards
zone.
are still high.
Yeah.
So the music then becomes big. I think now a lot of your life in that time of the music, the Bobi Wine who had become, was or has been lived in front of people. And people know that and have seen that. I want to then circle to the point where your family has, not just your dad, I mean even your brothers also are in politics or leadership of sort. I want to understand why it wasn't just for the presidency. I want to understand you were okay. Bobi, you had a family, you had some sort of leadership in your community, you had the impact you needed, you had the money and the money coming, you had a peaceful life. What in the world drove you to disrupt that?
I don't know.
You said to me you said to me off the break it was a calling. I want to understand when that calling knocked on the door.
Yeah, I think very many things happened, one leading to another.
Right.
I cannot put a finger on one particular thing, but I've always cited this scenario as one of the many. One day at the height of my success, remember when I bought that new Cadillac Escalade with 24-inch spinning wheels? I packed it out on Club Angenois,
which is now governor.
Walked out, you know, my walking style, bouncing like I was walking on springs. Went inside. Of course, all girls were looking at me, and I was feeling like the dude of the moment. So on my way out, there's this guy who had been offended. I won't mention his name. He came to my car, knocked, and I put my glass down. He slapped me so hard.
Okay. Didn't see that coming.
I got out of the car to teach him a lesson.
Of course.
Then he pulls the gun, puts it on my face, and slaps me hard again. Now, my intention of punching him back changed.
Yeah.
Then I asked,
there's a gun involved.
Yeah. Why are you beating me? What have I done to you? This guy is like, why are you showing off? Don't you know this country has owners? And slapped me again. That the bouncers of that club just walked in and said, Afandi, forgive him. He didn't know that we have big people.
What?
Here. So for me, that was the worst insult.
Because at this point of that Cadillac, you were Bobi Wine.
I was Bobi Wine. I was friends with the Juma Seikos of this world, with the Salehs of this world, with the Mohozis of this world. I was hanging with the powerful and mighty. I didn't only have an Escalade, but I had a yacht. I was the guy.
And here's one moment that is...
So this guy ordered me, get into your Silicon drive away.
What?
I got up into my car, drove.
And you still didn't know who it was at that point?
Nubian was silent. I drove and went to Ginger Road Police to report. Hoping, well, maybe, I mean, regardless of how powerful you are or whether
But did you know at that point who it was, who he was?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
So I am at Ginger Road reporting a case of assault.
Okay.
And you know when you get there, police officers are sleeping. They come. They were still taking my details, and somebody comes on the police station. Guy comes, opens his car trunk.
The same person?
Yeah. When he opens the boot, pulls out somebody, comes grabbing him by the shirt, throws him to the officer, saying, "Where? Go and detain this one." Say, "Ndio afande." They immediately took that person and detained him. Then this guy turned and he recognized me.
The same person he has just dealt with is here.
Say, you, what are you doing here? Have you come to report? Get the hell out of here. Man. I got into my car and drove. But so much was going through my mind. Of course, so much had happened to so many people in full view of myself, and I had not done anything.
But this time it was happening to you.
To me. I took my lessons and I promised myself that moving forward, I will not be silent. So that...
Because you were not immune. Even you were not immune.
So that sparked my constant criticism of all manner of injustices. It went on, although it was not yet counterproductive until Tubonga Nawe, when I refused to take part in Tubonga Nawe. That's when URA slapped me with an insane tax bill. I paid it and I said I will not support you still. You know, it went on escalating. Now, when I ran for MP in Chadondo, of course it escalated a little more, but not to these levels. Do you believe
you were a threat when you ran for MP in Chadondo?
I believe I was not yet a serious threat even when I ran for MP.
Right.
Why? Because I had refused to run under FDC. I had refused to run under DP. I was running as an independent.
Yes.
I was very popular. I still had friends in government, in the military, in police, and I believe they still hoped to co-opt me. As a matter of fact, even during the campaign, some people sent me help, even those in government that had been friends of mine.
To support you.
Yeah, I won't mention them now, but maybe one day in my autobiography, I'll write about them. So they sent me support. And even when I became MP, they were still friendly to me. You remember me dancing Pakachini with Robin and Abanja. When you
became MP for Chadondo, there was no end game for you. There was no bigger game. You were happy to lead in that role.
I was happy to lead in that role. Actually, I went to Parliament. Like I said, the Parliament had refused to come to the ghetto. So I wanted the ghetto to go to the Parliament.
So that was the big game.
For me, that was the mission. I wanted, first of all, to encourage as many young people, as many ordinary citizens, to pick interest in the goings-on in Parliament. And I knew that by me being there, there will be attention on what goes in Parliament. I wanted it to bring politics on the street, on the border stage, in the dance hall. So there was not so much of a threat. I think I started being a threat when the constitution was changed. And General Museveni, was going to run again.
The era of Tojukwata.
Exactly. That's when they said, now this boy is not about to be compromised. After, of course, the arrests, the beatings, after the bombs were thrown here. And I said, no. Now, what broke the camel's back was the Arua saga, when there was an assassination attempt on me. When it failed, I said, no turning back. My wife was never so involved. In fact, in many times, she was discouraging what she called radical positions that I was taking. But when she came and saw me in military detention, beaten up, almost broken, said, okay, now this guy just woke up. A devil. Let's go. The rest is history.
The fourth estate, the media, you know how life is. We build a picture. And the public, there's a court of public opinion. The person looks at the picture you've put and says, this is the story you've written. But me, I think this is the story. Public opinion always does that. You have been an interest where people take apart everything. And there's a good chunk of people who believe there's no way Bobi Wine is standing for Bobi Wine and who he says is standing for. There's a group that still holds on to the idea that maybe you're planted.
Planted?
That you could be working for the NRM or the government, right?
For those...
And I'm sure you know this story exists, that people believe that there's no way this rise has been utterly because you believe there's a revolution inside you, right?
There's no revolution inside me.
It's outside.
And for those who say I'm planted, yes, I'm planted by the people of Uganda,
right?
By the ghetto people. There's no revolution inside me. The revolution is inside everybody. It's everywhere. And revolution, if they must understand, revolution means change, fundamental change. For me, there has been a revolution in my heart, and I believe in the hearts of many people who grew up the way I grew up, who live the way I live, who want better, who see better, who imagine better. And want to achieve better and feel like they deserve better. It's in everybody. Working for the NRM, I don't believe there's NRM, DP, whatever. The people, regardless of which political persuasion they subscribe to, they all have the same challenges and the same solutions could benefit them. What I'm advocating for is only change for the better. And it's not about me.
The person, the individual. Yeah. Because I asked one of your teammates, colleagues actually, Davis Ruiz Ruvongoya, why he believed, because when he described his story, I told him, you're an intelligent man. Book smart and obviously world smart. When you look at the confines of the ranks of the NUP platform, why is there a belief that Bobi Wine, Robert Kyagulanyi, should be the leader? Why did you believe that you would effect change as a president versus anywhere else? Because even when you went for the elections, right, even if you saw what was coming, what you believed was coming, you still spoke out and said you didn't believe you would win.
Yes. No, I believed I would win. I didn't believe I would be declared winner.
Okay, fine. You did not believe you'd be declared as a winner. Why go for a war where you know you might not have the outcome as is?
Thank you. First of all, I like that you mentioned it, and you are absolutely right, that I didn't come out as the smartest or as the most qualified. I am leading people that are many, many more times more qualified than myself. I mean, my Secretary General, we met in class. She was from Harvard teaching us constitutional law, and we became friends. And unusually, usually it's the teachers that get students out of school. By this time, I got my student, got the teacher out of school. We left law school because we could not study constitutional law in a country that has no constitutionalism. So the same way, I mean, my deputy presidents, two of them are PhDs and etc. So I didn't present myself as the alpha and omega, as the all-knowing. I just presented myself as a dedicated voice of the people. You know, when I came to represent common people, and I was, and I continue to speak with my simplicity, with my ordinary knowledge of what I believe the simple but most important things in the life of Ugandans. And incidentally, so many people agree with me, the young and the old, and that's how we come together. And I don't make decisions as myself. We make decisions as us. We sit down, the educated, the uneducated, and, you know, we deliberate about things. Because we believe that better can only come when all of us are involved. I'm not convincing anybody to believe in my ability to change their lives. No, it's not me who's going to change your life. I just want you to believe in your ability to change your life.
Right.
When you believe in your ability and I believe in my ability and we come together, we can accomplish so much.
One of the people I think you love, Bob Marley, that song about emancipation, where he says none but ourselves can free our minds. I think the people have the right. You believe that. That's your philosophy, that people have the power. There's something that comes with our history, not just as Ugandans, but Africans and the community internationally. We still have a soured, I say soured lightly, but still a soured relationship where we have been colonized before. There have been opinions dissented down to Africans where we've had to tell ourselves we are resourceful, we are worthy as continents, and of course as a continent and also as countries. When you're rebuilding that, do you see, even when people blame, for example, the president and his allies internationally and his choice of relationships sometimes, choice of investments sometimes, you're giving away our country, you're selling our country, and such things are the stories, and you come up as a beacon of change, let's say, and you still have allies internationally. Don't you think that is also looked at as, was that the solution? You understand? You mean there is no homegrown solution?
I'll tell you that our solution is entirely and squarely homegrown.
Okay.
There's no solution from outside there. But again, it is foolhardy to think that we are going to live in isolation as Africa. We don't need to be begging, but we need trade and exchange of ideas, technology, and all that. So we can't live in isolation. The world is one global place. You talked of something that seems to insinuate that there's a problem with Africa, and indeed there is. Although I refuse to subscribe to the thinking that as Africans we have a problem. We don't have a problem. What is the problem then? That question has been answered numerous times, particularly in the 80s. For example, one great writer called Chinua Achebe in the 80s was asked what the problem in Africa with Africa is, and he said it's not the lakes or rivers or climate or the food or anything, but the problem with Africa is entirely leadership. And indeed, General Museveni himself in 1986, he wrote a book called What's Africa's Problem? I have a copy here. And he's quoted to have famously said that Africa's problem are the leaders that overstay in power. I agree with these elders completely. That has always been our problem. Our problem in Africa is the leadership. And with good leadership, we can transform in Africa in just one lifetime. I mean, we've seen countries change. You've seen countries transform, you know, politically, socially, economically. Look at our neighbors in Kenya. They're certainly not where they should be, but they are many, many, many miles ahead of us, and they are certainly where we envy to be. Even in our sister Rwanda here and many other countries, we believe everything rises and falls with leadership, accountable leadership, people-centered leadership, a leadership that leads or rules for and on behalf of the people, a leadership that understands the people.
How long does it take to transform a country? Ours, let's take ours as an example. How long would it take to transform all the things we don't like about our country?
It shouldn't take so long. There's a book that I read by Lee Kuan Yew. It's called From Third World to First. And this guy was able to transform his country in just under 20 years. Of course, the transformation continues. However, I must say that, and it was even said by the same guy, Lee Kuan Yew, that there are some countries that have been so messed up that it will take over 100 years to transform. For me, what I believe and what I long for is to, first and foremost, see freedom in my lifetime. And to have a beginning. You know, when we change political leadership, the transformation will only begin there. Removing a leader is not the end in itself, but it's actually, in many ways, just a beginning of a process.
I like that you've said that, because your base of people that you're fighting for, the people power that you say, this is a country of young people, youths. And you know the thing about youths is that it's smoking mirrors. You tell us a thing, but we only look at the top. When you're transforming a country, there's a lot, the moving parts that you have to explain to us. And if the messaging, because you know you can write a manifesto, you have it, you have a manifesto, but not everybody is going to read the manifesto, which is why you go to communities and you speak, and when you're given an opportunity, you say, this is what we stand for, this is why we're doing this. Not everybody
will understand.
They will understand the biggest message. And when the message is said that if I remove this particular, okay, not you particular, but if the leader is removed, that's the solution, and that's what's communicated, don't you believe that people will expect magical solutions?
Definitely. And it worries me, Flavia. It worries me so much to imagine. That's why it's important to prepare our people to know that it is going to take everybody, first of all, to transform ourselves into new Ugandans, into new patriotic Ugandans that don't think for their stomachs and families alone, but for the country. We are able to transform. You asked a question that I did not answer very well, how long it takes to transform a country. It is going to take generations. However, there are certain things that we can achieve. For example, our roads, I'll give you one quick solution. We lose 10 trillion to corruption every year in Uganda. That money alone, if you put it together for 6 years, it can be able to cover the 26,000 road network kilometers that we have in Uganda. Then you go to healthcare. Then you go to education. We just need, first of all, to fix the basics that allow the population to also feed in. You know, if you have a good road network, if you have good infrastructure, then the business is going to feed into that. If you have a good healthcare system, then the livelihood and the productivity of the population is going to feed into that, because you're going to have an alive population, etc., etc.
What has surprised you the most when you got into this side of the world? I mean, the music clearly has not happened as much as you would have.
What surprised me most?
Yeah.
It was a disappointing surprise.
Okay.
Yeah. I was shocked that the people that we always looked at as intellectuals are actually not smart. Yeah. Many intellectuals are just an imitation of intellectualism. They are not as smart as should be. Or if they're not smart, or if they are smart, their smartness is for sale and it can be exchanged. As Norbert Mao one time said that if you're paid to be a fool, then your intelligence ceases to matter. So many so-called intellectuals.
When you say it was a disappointment, is that because you had for long looked at them as
Yes, many of these people, I looked at them, listened to their speeches, intelligent words that they use, but drawing close to them, they are nothing close to what they purport to be.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a disappointment.
That was a disappointment.
But there must be something.
But also, I'll tell you that I learned that the world is not changed by politicians, but by citizens who are patriotic and dedicated to change.
Can you beat the system?
We have beaten the system so many times. I escaped from a military house arrest. But our desire is not to beat the system,
right,
but to transform the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you proud of the, and I say this lightly, of the party, but not really the party, but of the people, that your presence as a spokesperson for your people? Are you proud of who they've become? Are you proud of the impact that you've created in them? Are you proud of the people they have become because of Bobi Wine?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because we have sparked, like Tupac said, I'm not sure I'll change the world, but I can guarantee you I'll spark the mind that will change the world. I'm proud that our works have sparked so many young people, emboldened them to take charge. I used to look with admiration to a young journalist called Joel Sonyonyi on TV, grilling these politicians and all that, and reached out and we connected, and now he's our leader of opposition and it's making us very proud. I used to look at this young activist called Shamim Malende, and we connected, and when we also contributed to her campaign and she became woman MP for Kampala, she's making us proud. Many other people.
So you sparked?
Yes. We have spoken to ordinary people, border riders, food vendors, taxi drivers, and they've embraced patriotism. We have been able to influence a paradigm shift, a mentality that in the ghetto today, you will find discussions about policy, you will find discussions about corruption scandals. You don't find people discussing John Remba and Schwarzenegger, you don't find them discussing Manu and Arsenal anymore. So we are proud of challenging a generation to up its thinking and worldview. Right. But there are also some things I'm not very proud of. For example, among the people that have come riding on our coattail, have sold out the people that voted them into power. So many people have used this Bobi Wine image to make a quick dime. And this has vulgarized us in many ways to the extent that some people think we are on a money-making scheme.
Right.
So there's always the happy and sad.
It's a give or take.
Yeah, it's a give and take.
Okay, as we wrap, I'm looking at this. We've been in your home. Your children are happy. Your wife is smiling. Everybody. By and large, if we didn't know who you were, it looks like an ordinary home of mom, dad, and children. It is an ordinary home. And yet, outside, the picture is we should be ducking because stones are about to be thrown on the other. There's a picture of a lack of safety for you and your family, and yet you're able to live a very normal life. First, they're two-pronged. One is the kind of discussions you have over time, because every time something good or bad happens, you have to sit again as a couple and say, yeah, this is still a calling, this is still a dream, and because you need the support of your family to be able to champion outside. Obviously, they give it to you if you're still there. I wonder what it's taken for them to give you that support? It's a lot to ask of people.
Yeah, it's too much to ask.
Okay, it's too much to ask.
Initially, my wife and I tried so much to protect our children from this. Make sure they don't read news.
They don't know what's happening.
Make sure they don't know what's happening to us. Even when I am in jail, my wife would find some sweet lie for where I am until it started, escaping us.
Right.
My son is at school and friends are telling him, your father is a criminal, he's in jail and all that. So we came to an understanding with my wife that we should be honest with our children and tell them everything.
Right.
Because we don't want them to get it from anywhere else.
Right.
So we tell our children what we do and we explain to them. And now they are in support because they know it's tomorrow. Of course, they used to demand so much of my time, but I had to explain to them that even other kids need me. They don't even have their fathers.
Right.
They're either in jail or missing. So as a family, we came to terms with the harsh reality that we are facing. And it has been helpful because they don't ask us disturbing questions. They pray with us. Right. Especially my youngest daughter, she's the one that was questioning so much. But now that I'm honest with her, every time I'm going in a tough situation, she will say a prayer with me. And somehow children's prayers work.
You come back alive.
Yeah, I come back alive.
Yeah, so and as we wrap, in hindsight, now you've tested the good and the bad. Clearly, you're still going for gold.
Hell yeah.
Right? You're not sure of what the worst could be.
I know what the worst could be. The worst could be killing me. There can't be anything worse than that.
And you've thought about it?
And I've thought about it.
If the worst of this is that your life would end, what happens to the revolution that you said is not inside you anymore, is outside?
I have made it clear to everybody that this is not about me. And I've told the people of Uganda that it's possible for me to be eliminated. But again, leaders have even betrayed their causes and sold out. So I've told them not to look.
And so that's not one of the worst things that could happen. The worst is only death.
Yeah, because in my view, because I know I can never be compromised.
Right.
But I tell my people to not look for another Superman, to believe in themselves. When they have me, let them celebrate it, let's maximize it. But with or without me, they must never accept to be slaves in their own country. They must fight for their dignity, they must fight for their freedom. They keep going. So yeah, I've come to terms with that. Yeah, with my family, of course, it's disturbing.
Right.
Everybody wants to see their children grow, to see them marry, to see them, their grandchildren. I hope for that, But I don't have control about that because I am at war with the people that control everything, that determine whether I live or die. That's where it is. So I'm not so different, Flavia, from a dead person, only that I'm still speaking. I still have the opportunity to say what I want to say, and I say it, and I live every day as if it's my last day. If I leave tomorrow, that's a bonus. And you know how nice bonuses are. They're nice.
I've never asked this, but have you met President Yoweri Museveni?
Yeah, I met General Museveni in Makerere. One-on-one?
Yes.
No.
Do you desire for one?
Yeah, I want to meet him, but not privately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it should be, because it's not about me as an individual.
Right.
No, it should be a moral meeting, because I have grievances.
Okay.
I've put them on the table numerous times. If there's opportunity to put them in his face, I would love to morally put them in his face, so that he responds to them, not only to me, but to the entire generation. Yeah.
Wow. As I wind up, I want to ask, you are a huge fan, and I think over time you've had conversations with Dr. Kizza Besigye.
Yes.
Who was in a position like you are in a couple of years back and a couple of election cycles back. And today someone might say, is this what is going to happen to Bobi Wine? You'll try and try and try and try, and then the power that you wield will one day sit in silence. Because right now there is, of course, power never ceases away, because it leaves an impact, right? But there's a push there's a resistance. Very someone says putting up a resistance. Yeah? You're putting up a resistance now. And even if you said they don't have to see me as a Superman, you're still the one putting up a resistance. Bobi Wine, even if it's not, you believe it's not you, your name goes before you and puts up a resistance. But let's say 10 years down the line, the status quo is still the status quo. Are you still putting up a resistance?
I know deep in me that I will put up resistance forever.
Okay.
Until I live in dignity. Because I will never, ever, ever accept to live a life of less than what I deserve.
Right.
And I'm not asking for too much. I'm asking for freedom, for full human rights, for dignity as a citizen under the law, for equality like everybody else. And I must give Dr. Besigye his flowers. It's because of his resilience and his example. And I was lucky enough to get close to him and learn from him up close and feed from his cup of wisdom. And it's in many ways the reason why I am here today. I know that one time I will not be the one either leading the country or leading the charge for change. And I'm longing for that day because this is not fun, Flavia. I don't like it. However, I want, by the time that comes, to have inspired so many others. That is what I would call a success. To have inspired and groomed so many other people, so that there are many, many Bobi Wines than can be controlled.
Okay. It wouldn't be such a bad ending if there are many.
It would be a lovely ending.
Wonderful.
You know, and I hope to live long enough to see that.
Before I have you tell people maybe 2 or 3 things you believe they should hold close to their hearts, I want your 4th song choice.
My 4th song choice is a song from South Africa. It's called Soweto, Say No to Apartheid. Soweto, Soweto, say no to apartheid, say no.
It's one of those old folklore songs that existed. It's been good getting to know you because even if I knew you, I didn't really know some of this story. I think I'm proud of you fighting for what you believe in.
Thank you.
You know, people don't have to agree.
Definitely.
People don't have to agree, but they can just understand each other.
But again, Flavia, I will say, you know, I'm inspired by those guys that did this before us.
Came before you.
But there's this guy called James Baldwin. He said, we can disagree and still be friends. Unless your agreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of the right to exist, then we cannot disagree and be friends. True. Is it hard to be impartial? That Bobi Wine can stand here and see someone of DP, of FTC, and still be impartial? Of course, that thing that Baldwin is talking about. In moral times. But again, you cannot be neutral in a situation of injustice. So we're not in times where we can be neutral? No, we are not in times where we cannot be neutral. You cannot tell me that the law says everybody is equal, but somebody is oppressing another, but you're neutral. You cannot find and Bishop Tutu also mentioned it, that you cannot see an elephant putting his foot on a tail of a rat and you say, I'm neutral. So you cannot be neutral in a situation of injustice. Right. So let's wind up with people who are listening to you and they may not agree with the Bobi Wine who ended up in politics, but they agree 100% with the Bobi Wine who's been resilient, disciplined, and succeeded. And so they want to take from that cup of wisdom what lessons you've garnered over the years. And now that you're mature, you're able to give advice better than you would have given it when you're younger. I could give some advice then, but it's better advice now. Yes. What would you tell that young man who's also coming up in life? They don't need to be coming up in life in music or in politics, but they're trying to, in their circle, in their little square, become the best. First, I'll tell them that to your own self, be true and be truthful. Be just. Be honest, be kind. You can never go wrong with those things. Find something or someone to live for. You will never be disappointed. The heaviest thing for you to carry is ego, is pride, and is hate. Nobody is worth your hate, no. Nobody.
They're too heavy. Put them down. Yeah. That's sound advice.
I would think.
Thank you for your time and for the invitation to hear your story.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. And that's it for Desert Island Disc. Good night.